This is a Minirig speaker. It's a small, portable, Bluetooth, battery-powered speaker. No great shakes there, right? There's a lot of these around, but it's more than that. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why it's more than that and why this is hands down our favorite Bluetooth speaker of all time. And the reason we're telling you this now is that it's just reached the 4th generation. These are great for DJing with, and let me explain to you why as we carry on through this video. So let's take a closer look. This is what it looks like. It is a metal constructed speaker, like half a beer can kind of size. It's got this grill on top, metal grill on top, and the 4 screws here. Notable really in this 4th generation as to how similar it looks to the previous one, but there are changes and the changes are meaningful. So we'll talk through those as we move on through the review. These speakers have great battery life, they have great sound quality, but they are able to be wired up either 1 or 2 or even more, but I'll talk to you about the standard arrangement here where we've got 2 wired up together like this, in order that you get zero latency from DJ gear. In this particular setup here, I'm taking the output from the DJ unit, putting it into the first speaker, and from the first speaker, we're going into the second speaker. I now get stereo and I get zero latency. In other words, they're a Bluetooth speaker that you can use as a wired speaker too. Now you might say, well, my speakers have got a line input. I've got a Bluetooth speaker from JBL or Bose or something. It's got a wired input. You know, what's the difference? It won't be zero latency. Very few of those speakers nowadays actually are zero latency, which means there's a delay between what you do on the DJ gear and what you hear coming out the speakers. And obviously that is a no-go. You want to be able to hear out the speakers immediately what you do here. These are true zero latency. What comes out of the back here and goes into there is heard instantly. And likewise, when it's wired up to this one here, it's heard instantly. Now, the other things that have always differentiated these for us, and I can say it very simply, is number 1, they're loud. And I mean, they're really loud. Number 2, they sound really good. You have to push them very, very hard before that sound starts to crack up, as it inevitably does with all speakers, especially little ones. So the fact that they're very loud, the fact that they sound really genuinely good, and the fact that you can wire them up as well as use them as a normal Bluetooth speaker, charge it up, take it away, throw it in your bag, use it with your phone, all that normal stuff that you want this kind of speaker for. The fact it's got that dual purpose means that we absolutely love them. Coupled with the build quality, which is the same as it's ever been. Indeed, here is one of the older ones. And as you can see, they actually look very similar. The build quality hasn't changed at all. It's fantastic, as it always has been. So what has changed on these speakers since the last one? Well, crucially, they now have USB charging. Now this is becoming something that you have to do in the EU, but it's done. So they now have USB-C charging. I actually love this because they used to come with a proprietary cable, and if you lost the cable, then you lost the ability to charge them. So I love the fact that it's USB-C, but it's also now good because you can charge them with a USB-C PD power input, and at 30 watts it'll charge the speaker in about an hour and a half, and they've got like ridiculous battery life, somewhere between like 20 and 100 hours depending on how loud you have them. So once you've done that, you're good to go. Also, you can use it as a power bank, so you can plug your phone into here as well, and you can take power from the phone into here, or you can have it the other way. If your speaker's flat and you want to nick some power from your phone, you can even make it do that, and it holds enough battery to actually charge your phone a couple of times, which is pretty cool. They've also added volume controls on the top of the speaker here, so you can turn them up and down on the top. You used to have low gain and high gain settings, which was a little bit strange, but now you've got these volume control settings, and you can see here what you've got it set to as well. And so the idea is that you set the input as loud as you can, and then you use the speaker to control the volume on the unit itself to get it to where you want to get it to. As well as that, they've got an accelerometer built in, which is pretty funny. I don't really know why it's crucial, but it is good. For this, you want to know how much battery life you've got left? Give it a little shake, and the battery life comes up on the top there. There you go. Took a couple of shakes there for it to show. It has got a microphone built in here, so now when they're Bluetooth attached to your phone, you can use it as a microphone and a speaker for taking calls on, which is something that wasn't on any that came up until this point. So there's a few other things to look out for then with these speakers. The first thing is I've already shown you that you can wire them together, which is really cool. Your music goes from one into the other, and then the lead goes from that one to that one. So this is kind of the primary speaker, and this becomes the secondary speaker that way. You can then quickly set this to be the left and this to be the right speaker using certain combinations of the buttons, which is really nice. You can use them with Bluetooth in the same way. So you can pair two up and have one left and one right with Bluetooth. You can also have multiple speakers, so you could have 4 or 6 or whatever paired up with Bluetooth. Then they just become mono and they just add to each other if you choose to do it that way. You can also add a subwoofer. This is a Minirig subwoofer. Now they haven't launched a subwoofer number 4 to go with the Minirig 4 speakers here. However, you can just plug the subwoofer in. I think this is the second edition actually. There is a subwoofer 3. I'm not sure which one this is. Can't remember. We've got a couple of them knocking around. Anyway, if you've got the current subwoofer, you can have that going on Bluetooth. So just for listening to music, Bluetooth's no good for DJing with again, but just for listening to music, you could have that, or you can wire it in and now it works as a subwoofer with your setup here. So you've got a real extra bit of bass. The bass is incredible from these considering their size, and the volume is incredible considering their size as well. But hey, you've got the option of adding one of these extra if you want a bit more oomph. Personally, I think one of these is a great start. 2 of these, especially if you're using them at home as a kind of mini monitoring system, is that you can make an argument for that. When you start adding the subwoofer in, you might as well find a much larger speaker that can do this for you. For me, all the wires and all the charging 3 separate units and all the adding them together, it's kind of like, yeah, a bit too fiddly. That's just me. I know people who've got the subwoofer and who absolutely love it. But anyway, you've got that option there if you want it. Now, these are strictly Bluetooth. So if you're thinking about buying some speakers to do everything at home, so you want some speakers that you can use wired, and you could wire these in permanently at home, of course, with a USB-C socket. You want them to be wired. You also want to be able to Bluetooth into them from your phone when you want to listen to a podcast or just music or whatever, and maybe have AirPlay as well and all that stuff. You can't because they haven't got any Wi-Fi in them. They're just Bluetooth speakers. So just something to bear in mind if you're thinking that this could do everything. No Wi-Fi equals only Bluetooth when you're connecting to them. Now, they do have an app. Now, the app is for not only phones, so Android and also iPhone, but you can run it as a Chrome app as well. Now the app will let you update them. It will give you information about the current speaker, so you can check the model and so on. They've got some quite cool things, so you can have it so that when you tilt them, it changes the EQ, and then the EQ, the treble goes back again when you put them up, so you can have the EQ attenuating depending on how they are positioned. You can also in the app set them up so that they are automatically pairing when you add them to each other, automatically remembering which one is left and which one is right and so on. And there's also bass and treble tweaks that you can make in the app too. Honestly, I am not a fan of apps with speakers. I much prefer to see speakers where you can do everything on the speaker itself. Most of the stuff in the app for these is things like that, things like updating the firmware, things like you can have the LEDs flash a little bit when the music's playing and stuff. I guess they're good to have, but you're going to go in there, you're going to set it and you're going to forget it and not come back to the app that regularly, which I think's good. I'm just not a fan of having an app for everything. I want the speaker itself to do what you need it to do, and honestly these will, so don't worry about the app if you're not someone who downloads these things and installs these things. I think unless you've got a lot of budget, unless you're a company that's got an awful lot of money to spend on these things, apps tend to look and feel a bit clunky and they tend to let products down. Anyway, in this instance, it's an optional thing for sure. So you'll probably get it, you'll probably check the firmware, you might just think about a couple of other tweaks and then you'll forget the app and leave it altogether. So they are a bit of a cult speaker. They've got a really fervent following out there, and quite rightfully so. They are really loud, they're really well made, they really sound great, and they last forever. I've got Minirigs knocking around here. This is a Minirig 3, but I've got 1 and 2 Minirigs knocking around here that still work. Right back at the beginning, they didn't have Bluetooth or anything. You could just wire them in, but they always sounded great. Sound quality wise, as I say, these sound great. They're loud. The bass is incredible for the size of the speaker. I can't hear any difference between these and the previous ones. They say they've redone the circuitry and the DSPs and all that. I'm sure they have, which is great, but honestly, the sound quality was fine as it was. And to me, they just still sound as good as they've ever sounded. So that's praise in itself. Now, As I said at the top of this review, we don't tend to review and recommend everything that gets suggested to us or sent to us here at Digital DJ Tips. We'd much rather you find the gear for you and then move on and do the important stuff like learning how to use it properly, right? But in this instance, we have no hesitation in recommending these if it's what you're looking for. If you want a small speaker that can work as your casual day-to-day Bluetooth speaker, but you also want to be able to plug your DJ gear into it and play away without any latency, and you want it to last a long, long time, we recommend these wholeheartedly. There's no plastic in sight, the sound quality is great, there's no rattles, there's no sense that they've cut any corners with these at all. They're just a really nice product for DJ practice, for taking with you as a mini monitor speaker, for using as a casual speaker, or for pairing up in, I'd say the ultimate is to have two of them for a left and right stereo. They're great. And if you really get into the concept, they've got this sub available as well. They are the Minirig 4 speakers, and they are available now. People tell us that there's a bit of an issue getting them sometimes in the States. If you are in the States and you want them, try a bit harder. It will be worth it. I think they're about 149 UK pounds. So you can figure out what they're going to cost, add the postage on, and try your hardest if you're in a place where they're not quite so easy to get. They're certainly very easy to obtain in the UK. That's the Digital DJ Tips look at the Minirig 4s. If you'd like any more information about these, we've written the whole thing up with extra stuff over on the website, which you'll see a link for underneath. Meanwhile, let us know what speakers you use for your DJing. Have you found a wired Bluetooth battery speaker that doesn't have latency when you plug in a lead? If you have, I'd like to know. Maybe we can review that as well. For now though, this, when it comes to a tiny speaker, is definitely our favorite. It's the Minirig, now in the Minirig 4 edition, and this has been the Digital DJ Tips review. So get good, get out there, make the moments, and I'll see you in another one of these very soon. Until then, bye for now.